Okay, so we're back here, and before we move on to the app, Jen, did you want to have a quick discussion about your silver and gold?
Oh yeah, okay, dokie. Yeah, I just thought I'd just check in. It's 29th?
Mm-hmm.
Is it evening?
30th today, actually.
30th, sorry, Thursday 30th. We have gold sitting in Aussie dollars at $2,734. And which has actually come down, and I'll just talk to you about that in a minute. Look, if you are going to go down to I know it's like, yeah, silver's going up. But you got like a caveat emptor, like buyer beware. You've got to know the murkiness that lies just behind the curtains with the bloody precious metals market. And silver is $32.60. So it's actually had a bit of a pullback. We're sort of sitting around 36 nearly and that sort of thing. So if
I was going to say, when I was a little kid, I grew up with my grandmother in Ecuador in the Andes, and my grandmother used to teach us a lot about the Inca and the and El Dorado. And so when I was a little kid, I was always looking for El Dorado. So I stopped looking for it because gold was so low price. But now that I'm hearing those numbers that you're rattling off, I think I'm going to go back to Ecuador and I'm going to
Yeah.
I'll get you a pith helmet and I'll give you a mate.
Absolutely. So, look, the gold and silver markets, they lump them together, but they are a bit different. Pretty much, there was an article, and Martin just covered it this evening, but he was talking about an article with just that one there. Shane Oliver of AMP did a little breakdown of what he thought about gold and what it was and whatever. And I think he's kind of missed the point. Like it's, look, gold is not an investment. It's for savings. That's its job. And it's done a bloody good job of it over a long period of time. And so the gold, I've been buying, a bit. There's some gold coins from the Perth Mint. They're really nicely finished, actually. I was pretty impressed with the quality. They really know how to work metal in Perth Mint. Bit of jewellery too, some 24-karat gold jewellery, right? So this is all about the purity, and I have done a video on that, on talking about jewellery, some of the pitfalls. Basically, you pay a much higher premium, of course, being wearable jewellery. And I'm just going to choose what else. So basically, the job of gold is to hold your wealth, is to sustain your wealth. Now, I know that Martin says, no, don't worry about gold because it's we're going into a deflationary environment. So they say, oh, gold only works in inflation. But inflation and deflation, there is some talk about it. Look, it's wings of the same bird, right? So there's a sort of almost that sort of philosophical sort of side of it too. But if your time frame is months or perhaps years, then I don't know, think maybe you have to think about something else. It's not a speculative sort of thing. If your time frame is 50, 100, 150 years, and that for me, I am thinking about our kids, grandkids, great kids, great grandkids, right? Okay, and try and use that over time. That's what it is. That's where it works. And quite frankly, 5,000 years, I think it's got a lot more history than Bitcoin. And I like Bitcoin. Bitcoin.
Oh, God. Yeah, now you're going to get a lot of comments on that.
But it's not the same. That's speculative, right? I put Bitcoin, Ethereum, and whatever against silver.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's you can see that?
Yeah.
What?
Peanuts.
Yeah, that's that. No, you think they're peanuts. This is my hedonic bars.
But okay, silver, yes, speculation and that sort of thing, and there is some sort of store of value in it. And I tell you what, it's been so undervalued now for a long time. It's probably worth not a bad bet. You can get 1 ounce coins. This is a 10-ounce bar, and your 1 kilo bar, which is a bit more like sort of storage quantity. This is kind of easy exchangeable sort of quantity, but you've got to understand how bastardized this industry is. And if there's a lot of people talking about it, and it's really taken me a bit of time to sort of wade through it all. But I tell you what, if you can go through to Arcadia Economics and Chris Marcus, they're over there, and he talks to all the players. You hear all the names just sort of keep popping up. But so you'll see there a name there and a rather sort of silver fox looking gentleman there called Bart Chilton, or Bartholomew Chilton. And he was the commissioner of the Commodities Trading Commission, CFTC, who is the regulator of the commodity markets. Now, he was interviewed back by Chris Marcus in April last year, or March, and he does talk about the shenanigans that happened within the silver market manipulation through JP Morgan, Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns and JP Morgan had short silver positions back before the GFC. Bear Stearns went down. The silver price was rising. They had short positions. They were squeezed out, and JP Morgan took those short positions and were told, right, you take hold of this, and you've got about 6 months to work your way down and unwind those positions. And what did they do? They increased them. So, I mean, if that's not, pardon me, Edwin, but that's not, that to the regulators. This is not regulated, okay? So, and then there's been court cases and there's all this evidence. Even if you could just bring up, there's a documentary that really is worth watching. It's called The Secret World of Gold. Now, you see little snippets. People have taken little snippets about, and it talks about the history, and it also talks about sort of over time, about the story of gold in particular. But this manipulation that also does apply to gold is very obvious in silver. It does sort of go into it was identified, it was brought up, it was put in front of them. They had all this evidence. They showed them. They said, here, watch, they're about to move, and it goes down. And then they sell all of these contracts. So one contract on the futures market controls 5,000 ounces of silver, and they would trade these electronically, multiples at a time, and try and pocket the difference. It's just, how do you compete?
It's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. The regulators aren't really interested in it. The big banks, the big bullion banks, and we all know, well, I hope you know, the banks are in charge. Quite frankly, regulators and government just are, I don't know, they sit below the rungs of the real power players, which are our banks, who create the money when they lend. So you've got to be aware that no one's got your back, okay? So I'm really excited by it because, it's not very fairly valued. But then the big thing changed March this year. It shifted, and this physical, because the commodities exchange, they looked after gold, silver, oil, wheat, corn, pork bellies, orange juice, whatever, all these sort of commodities, copper, all the metals, palladium, platinum. And basically, if you don't close out your position, you might end up, I think Lynette Zhang talks about someone you watched trading futures, and ended up with a train full of cattle that was going to be delivered because he had an exchange for physical. It's like, I didn't want the cows. I just wanted to bet on the difference of so many kilos of cows. Anyway, so now there is a thing of exchanging these contracts for physical metals, and this is where the collision happens. And so in the article from what's his name, Shane Oliver, and he talks about saying, oh well, it's expensive to store, and it's like, what, so what's that, nearly $3,000? I can just pop that in my pocket. I don't think it's very expensive to store. You can obviously get very small, modest boxes in independent private storage, and a couple of $100 a year. That's it. And peace of mind, job done. And look, I just people need to sort of get educated, and it again requires research, requires a lot of reading, got to read up on it, know what you're getting into, whether it be a property, whether it be a speculation, or that sort of thing. So gold is it not an investment? It's a savings mechanism.
That's good.
Yep.
Now, talking about saving, were you going to say so, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say when I'm saving rolls of toilet paper, but if we go into another lockdown, that's going to be worth more than your gold, there, Jen.
Well, we'll start a commodity floor for toilet paper roll.
That's it.
Now, I wanted to touch on the Rentable Score app, which you are very much up to speed on. So,
look, if you bring it up. So what it is, it's basically an app that a couple of guys, IT guys, have come up with. They had an idea that basically a little bit tired of how they've been treated as tenants, and they asked me for some guidance into what they could do and how they could essentially rate a rental property or give a rating. Similar to a rating that you would give a restaurant, a hotel, a coffee shop, a pizza bar, any other service online. At the moment, it's not being published online. They're gathering data, they're gathering information in order to take it to the next step. So we just like to encourage people to download the app on Android or Apple, and they can play around with it and submit the information. There is a choice where you can submit it. You can actually submit the PDF document that the app generates at the end of this first section that they've developed. It generates a PDF document, a report that you can submit and pass on to your property manager. It asks questions that are relatively that align with the regulations, the statutory regulations around rental properties and what should be disclosed, what should be done, how property managers should manage property. It sort of relates a lot to the management of a property, and also incorporates they want to know your experience, and it's predominantly around. I would say 95% of it is based on how the properties are maintained, because we've got statutory regulations around how property managers and property owners have to maintain the properties in order for them to be rentable. Now, a lot of times, all we get renters get. Tenants get when they're looking for properties are the glossy pictures online or the doctored pictures online, and they don't really get a history. And although it's by law that agents have to disclose what we now call we know in the industry as material fact, a lot of agents either don't know themselves, the owners don't tell them, they don't disclose them, and what happens is the poor tenants find these misfortunes later on whilst they're renting the properties. One comes to mind. There was a report, I think last week, where there was a shooting at a particular a drive-by shooting or some nasty pieces of work actually broke into a house and demanded certain things from the tenants. But the two ladies that were there at the home had the misfortune of being the current tenants. What these criminals or these people that were trespassing on the property, and you saw the footage or bits of the footage online as well. They were really after the previous tenants, but the agents obviously didn't disclose the nature or why the previous tenants had left the property. So it's material fact like that. And we've also, over the years, there's been some drive-by shootings where the current tenants are not the tenants that the intended perpetrators wanted to scare by putting a couple of bullets through the walls of the dwellings. So these are material facts, obviously, in relation to floods, mold issues, asbestos issues, violence in the home, or death or murder in certain properties. These are what we call material facts that have to be disclosed to new tenants in order for them to make the decision of whether or not they should lease the property or not. So these are things that that the app exposes, and it's really not going beyond what agents should be doing and should be telling tenants anyway, rather than disclosing. And if the agents don't know, they should be asking the owners. And albeit they got away with it, property owners and agents have gotten away with a lot in the past. Well, in New South Wales, the legislation changed in March this year for a lot of this to be disclosed and for properties to be fit and proper for rental. And it was a lot earlier down in Melbourne, down in Victoria. So then after people fill in the details, fill out the quick questionnaire and upload photos, the property that they've got the option to pass that on to the property manager with a rentable score. But at the moment, the actual address of the properties and the score that the app generates after all the questions are answered and photos are uploaded doesn't show up online yet. Stage 2, and hopefully we do end up getting, the guys that do end up going to stage 2 if they get enough people downloading the app and taking interest in it, because the next stage is the more costlier stage, as they tell me, to actually make it really go live. But I thought it was a great idea, and people should know what they're getting into.
Well, I was going to say the first line, I think, on the website, it says it's sort of returning, or it's changing the shift of power from the tenant, from the real estate agent back towards the tenant. And being a tenant myself for a very long time, I can appreciate that particularly if you're having to move a lot, or you're not dealing with, say, maybe some more expensive or premium properties, or even family properties. If you're sort of, uni days, those sort of days, you took what you got and you didn't really say much about it. So it's interesting that you've got that information now. You can actually make a decision, make a choice. You're not relying 100% on the real estate agent telling you what's actually going on in that property.
And it's from Martin North's data, there are 30% are tenants. So you've got 30% who own their home outright. You've got 30% who are mortgage holders, and 30% who are tenants. So it's a huge.
Well, there's about 3 million rental properties as well. So there's a lot of property out there, and as you said, Lee, it's hard and it's painful for families, and so inconvenient you go into a property, and especially these high-rise developments where you think just because they're new everything's okay, and you don't realise that when you're in there, then there's no cross-flow ventilation. The mechanical ventilation is absolutely hopeless. It doesn't. The apartments aren't ventilated properly, and within a matter of months, you've got apartments that are infested with mold and issues of the like, and homes, and asbestos, and lead, and in often cases you've got the what we call the cellulose fiber, or the insulation that's that's riddled with asbestos as well. The Mr. Fluffy type of insulation, which is what we know it as cellulose fiber, that got put up on the roofs.
Sorry, I was going to say it'd be really useful from the point of view. I remember we rented a property, and the next door neighbour had a bad habit of burning what I can only describe as a mixture of plastic and car tires. It was just the most horrendous aroma they used to put out of this incinerator / barbecue / whatever it was. But he was right next door, and he used to pump straight into our place. Now, that is something I would have liked to have known before I started that 12-month contract, because it was a really sort of funky property and a funky smell, and just having that information, so you go, actually, I work nights, it doesn't bother me, I won't be there, or actually it will bother me because I've got kids and a dog and I don't want them running around in it.
Yeah, look, a lot of the questions are based on the whole area of the legislation and things that should be disclosed. And there are, look, and also some of the questions that I recall there, agents have also got a habit of promoting certain services to tenants, and the reason why they do that is because they get a kickback. Now, my thing is, and as I was saying to the guys when I was helping the guys, I was saying, like they're quick to inform tenants as to what services to use, but they're not quick to inform tenants of what's wrong with the property in the first place. In other words, whatever gives them a quick kickback, they're sharp and on the ball to inform the tenant or coerce the tenant into taking on. But whereas they should be concentrating on not only what's going to make their life easier by having a happier tenant, by the tenant knowing, or by informing their landlords, their clients, which the clients are their landlords, what to fix in the property so that the tenants can be a lot happier and they can be long-lasting tenants, especially now when there's so many vacant properties available and tenants can choose. And that's another thing. Right now was a good time. I feel, and I was telling the guys to, if they're going to launch it ASAP, launch it at this time, because it's right now where tenants have got the power to choose property as well. I know there was a couple of comments on Twitter when I put the link out, and they said, what if property managers get this and they use it as they become vindictive.
That was the very thing. I just actually was checking that on my phone just to bring that up. One of our subscribers, Joe Kortek, really a good involved guy on your Twitter, he actually brought that up. Is there a chance of retaliation if you give feedback that the property manager doesn't like?
Well, the thing is this: it's feedback that if the property manager doesn't like it, guess what? You can probably rent a house or an apartment around the corner from where you're renting for about 10 or 15% less than what you're paying anyway. Yeah, okay, it might be inconvenienced, but some of the information on there that agents are not taking care of. As I said, as far as I'm concerned, they have major health issues, and they gravitate around asbestos, around mold, around flooding, and any other issue. Not only that, but then there's also the material fact. There, I recall not too long ago there was something like 17 properties in the northwest region. I think it was about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, there were 17 properties in the northwest region that were rental properties. These are homes that were worth anywhere between $1.2 to $1.7 million that were being used simultaneously by a syndicate to harvest marijuana. They had hydroponics in these houses, and now these are from one property. I know one of the detectives that was handling this. From one property, they pulled out 150 plants from one house. 150 mature plants.
Well, I'll tell you
that's a shitload of plants. Now, so that's in the hydroponics, right? But now what we're seeing, and what they told me, what my friends in the force tell me, is that they're seeing a spike in the manufacturing of ice, and you can manufacture ice in the cubicles, in the en-suites of apartments, in the en-suites, and that stuff is so toxic. Yes. And then what happens when they leave or they get found out, they get caught out, the place isn't cleaned properly, the place is maintained properly, but you don't disclose that the previous tenant got kicked out, got pulled out of there by the, and there's ice fragments in the carpet or in the walls or whatever, all this sort of stuff. And these are material facts. So look, agents have to disclose this anyway. And I think if agents look at this with an open mind, they will see that this is also going to help them convince their landlords, convince their clients to fix the properties and to fix them properly so that they can have happy tenants. And that's going to make the agent's life a lot easier as well, because they don't have to be dealing with tradespeople and complaints and abusive phone calls and the like, because that is consuming, given the fact that most of the time agents are only getting anywhere between $18 to $22, $25 a week to manage a property.
Yeah, you just got to go, that's a volumes game, that is.
And I mean, it is a case of the feedback, like any feedback. You can either take it and be constructive with it, or you can take it as persecution. And if you take it as construction, you're going to build something from that constructive criticism. You're going to be able to improve. You're going to be able to go forward. If you take it as persecution, you really don't go anywhere. You just stay in the same spot and feel terrible. So
yeah, but that model doesn't work anymore.
No.
because that power shift balance has flipped. So you can't do just get rid of that annoying person and ignore that and ignore that. Like if they want successful businesses.
And we've got legislation anyway. We've got legislation and tenants should be, and this is why I often talk about, and have helped a lot of people, that follow me on Twitter. I've helped them with the tenancy issues, offline, and because I feel tenants really get hard done by, but like you said, there's been a power shift, and a lot legislation is a lot tighter, and tenants shouldn't be fearful. Apart from the fact that there's so much to choose from at the moment, and they can go into better properties, and pay less even in a lot of the cases. But yes, it is a bit cumbersome to move. But I don't think. I think the simple fact that there's a lot of property, the vacancy rate is high. I can't see a lot of backlash. Look, I'm not saying that there won't be. There will be, but the agents will be silly. The property managers will be absolutely silly to do it, because more legislation is protecting the tenant. The new changes, the introduction of the new regulations on the 26th of March means that the tenants, there's a lot greater disclosure. And if they don't disclose a lot of these things, and if the owners don't fix these issues that are rampant throughout the rentals in Sydney, New South Wales, guess what? They're also, the insurance companies are not going to cover them, and if people get injured, public liability and professional indemnity is not going to cover the real estate agent either. So it's time for change, and it's going to be good change, I feel.
Absolutely. I was going to say, with the app too, having that feedback to make a more informed choice. I mean, there were times when, like, we were at uni and just after uni and things like that, where I had friends who would have to move 4 to 5 times a year. So they'd have to, and I mean, admittedly, most of their stuff, 3 boxes you could pick up and move. We weren't exactly.
When you're younger.
Yeah, when you're younger. But the same principle applies, that if you could avoid doing 1 or 2 of those moves a year, as you said, cost.
Yeah.
Just the stress of moving, having to reset everything again, the time wasted ringing up saying, I've changed my address here, and all that sort of stuff. So the time and wasted time.
I mean, there are a lot of rent investors because they want to live in this suburb for the school, for that, for the lifestyle and whatever. But they are both tenants and landlords. So there is sort of that sort of aspect to think about too. And it's just there's a scene again out of The Big Short movie that I do remember, when a guy, bailiffs come to his door and he's been told he's come to be evicted, but he says, I've been paying my rent. He said, doesn't matter, because that rent wasn't being paid against the mortgage. And I wonder also, just in your research as a tenant, is to use something like rea.com.au and realestate.com.au, and just check maybe how long is this like a property flipping situation? Is it likely, when was the last time the property was sold? And we're talking about sort of like a long-term sort of family who has owned the place, and it's sort of like, okay, well, it's probably not likely I'll be turfed and the thing will be sold from underneath me. Because also now, with all of this coming on and the panic and all of the investment properties that are leased out, and people wanting to offload them, it's going to be just have the rug pulled out from underneath you. So there's sort of like, again, more research. You got to just spend a bit of time and think about things.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a property manager that I don't know, can't remember the Twitter handle that put an irate remark under one of the tweets that I posted about the app, and said, oh, maybe we should come up with an app to rate the tenants. I didn't reply. I mean, I just didn't reply. Couldn't be bothered. But I did think about it, and soon after I read it, within about, and I said, property managers are already rating tenants anyway. They've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for decades. They've even got a database, that they put tenants on that failed to pay the rent even after going to the tribunal, and you're on a database. They're placed on the database, and property managers do a search on that database. They subscribe to that database in order to see whether or not there are any outstanding issues with previous managements. So it's not like they're not doing it. They're doing it. They've been doing it for decades. This app basically is really going to bring everything to a level playing field. The property owners and property managers need to pay more attention to rentals. There are a lot of rentals out there. A lot of properties out there that should not be rented. They are health hazards. They are health hazards. They are death traps. As you said, there's a lot of rent investors that you still want to live in comfort. You still don't want to be uprooting every time that there's an issue with a property. And the other thing, as I also mentioned in Martin's show in relation to another topic, but similarly to what we're discussing now, and that is that a lot of the homes, freestanding homes that are being leased out in Sydney, whether as close as you want to be to the city, to as far away that as Penrith and all these subdivisions out, Box Hills and Rouse Hills and Schofields and all that. There are some homes that were built 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 120 years ago that are rented that have still got some of the old fixtures and fittings in them that are either got lead paint, galvanized plumbing, all sorts of issues, and yet owners for the last 20 years, 20, 30 years, haven't lifted a finger to fix, and these issues have just become health hazards and hazardous to life and limb because of the dilapidation of these buildings. Yeah. And so hopefully, look, it's just something. It's interesting. I thought it was a good project to get involved with the guys, and I hope we get enough people downloading it so that they can take it to phase 2, and the actual more and more properties people can see and search online and say and see what a rental property rates at before they lease it themselves.
Sounds good. All right. So once again, that app you can download it from the Google Play Store or the App Store. The website is RentableScore.com. So you can go there and check out some more information. And I'm sure if you hit Edwin up on Twitter, he'd be more than happy to point you in the right direction or give you some further information. So
well, if they go to the website, they go to the website, and I think those buttons at the bottom, I think they're hot buttons or whatever the IT guys call them.
They're links.
Yeah, they're links. I used one this afternoon to download it and I had to play with it this afternoon myself. So definitely works. Definitely all looks good. Gets onto your phone. Very quick and easy download. Easy to use. Super, super easy to use. So yeah, if you want to have a go, I'd really encourage people to have a go. It is a good app to use.
Well
Excellent. Done. Guys, thank you very much. So we might leave it there for tonight. It's been a bit of a long one. Yeah. But we covered a lot of ground. We covered obviously the debrief with the DFA. We've covered a bit of silver and gold, and now we've got some new technology in a rentability score.
I just like more tools are better than less. So yeah, I mean, this doesn't exist. This is brand new. There was nothing in this space. So what an opportune time to have something like this out there.
So good on you, mate. Well done.
Yeah, look, I hope the guys, like I said, hope people download it and the guys take it. I want to see it when You want to be there when they take it to stage 2, and we can actually Google an address and look at the rentable score of their areas. I only think, for me, I only think that things can only get better in terms of it'll put the onus on owners and on property managers to better maintain the upkeep of the rentals so that they can be rented.
Yep.
Sounds
It's
good.
only a good thing.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for watching. So you can hit us up on Twitter, and obviously you can get us through the the Gmail at industrybackstagepass@gmail.com. But apart from that, I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Thank you very much, guys, for the conversation. Enjoyed it once again, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
See you later.